Before we even get into today's story, I have to say this hearing caught me completely off guard. I thought it was going to be another routine congressional discussion where everyone reads prepared statements, avoids direct questions, and nothing memorable happens. But then one congressman started asking what sounded like incredibly simple yes or no questions, and somehow those questions became almost impossible to answer. The longer it went on, the more awkward the room became. Whether you agree with the congressman or not, the exchange raises some interesting questions about diversity, merit, and whether organizations are willing to clearly explain their own positions. Stick around because the ending says a lot about the entire hearing. Welcome back to the Political Brief, where we bring you the biggest moments from Congress, Washington, and American politics from a conservative perspective. If you enjoy honest political commentary and want coverage the mainstream media often ignores, make sure you hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps this channel grow, and I appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to watch and join the discussion. Now, let's watch what happened.
Mr. Jack from Georgia.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you convening this task force today, and I myself, as well as many of my constituents who are watching, reached out to let me know how impressed they were with your line of questioning. So with that having been said, I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to our distinguished chairman, Mr. Gill.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Ms. Binky, let's pick up where we left off before. The mission statement on the ABA's website states that our legal profession is enhanced when judges resemble the cultural groups that make up American society. How many Supreme Court justices have we had in American history?
I could not tell you over the
It's about 116. Do you know of those 116, how many of them have been transgender?
I have no idea.
Do you think there might have been one?
I have no idea.
Is it fair to say that there have been no transgender Supreme Court justices in American history?
I honestly have no idea.
You don't know?
I have no idea.
You study the law, don't you?
We do not study the personal attributes of individual justices.
Is there a Supreme Court justice in American history that you think might have been transgender?
I have no idea.
You have no idea? Well, I think most people can assume that there haven't been any transgender Supreme Court justices. I hope that we can agree at least on that basis. Would that be okay to proceed under that assumption? Okay. I appreciate that. So transgenders haven't been represented on the Supreme Court. Do you think that it's important that the next Supreme Court justice be transgender?
The ABA does not subscribe to any particular quotas.
I'm not asking about a quota. I'm asking about representation, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
The ABA supports diversity in all of its forms. And
have transgenders been included on the U.S. Supreme Court?
The ABA supports the full spectrum of diversity.
Do you think that it's a problem that the transgender community has never had representation on the U.S. Supreme Court?
The ABA believes in diversity, equity, and inclusion as...
And I'm asking you about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm asking you about inclusion of the transgender community.
We believe that people ought to bring their entire self to whatever role they're serving.
You're refusing to answer my question. Do you think that it's important that we have a transgender Supreme Court justice?
I believe that it's
in order to include that community.
I believe that it is always important, the ABA believes that it is always important to support and encourage diversity.
So we should have a transgender Supreme Court justice?
Diversity has many forms, and we believe that...
Do you think that you're not answering in a straightforward way? Do you think that's because of your own implicit bias?
I believe that I'm trying to explain that the ABA does not set quotas and does not believe that...
Do you have implicit transphobia?
The ABA believes that diversity in all of its forms is important and helps the profession more globally.
Okay, we're going to move on. Should Americans be judged by the color of their skin or the content of their character?
Discrimination is never appropriate, sir.
So do you agree that Americans should be judged by the content of their character and not by the color of their skin?
Yes, I would agree.
You agree with that? Should a law school consider an applicant's race when making admissions decisions?
The Supreme Court has indicated that
I'm asking you if they should. It's a normative question.
discrimination is never appropriate, and
So is it your testimony that law schools should not consider applicants' race when making admissions decisions?
the Supreme Court has said that you may not take race into account.
So you don't believe that race should have any role, yes or no, in a law school's admissions decisions?
Law-
Is that the position of the ABA?
The ABA is not responsible for admissions.
I didn't say it was. I'm asking you if you believe, and if it's the position of the ABA, that race should not be a factor at all in a law school's admissions decisions.
The ABA takes compliance with the law seriously.
I didn't ask you that. I asked, it's a really simple question. I'm asking you, let me just ask you in your own personal capacity, should race be a factor in law school admissions decisions? The question is a yes or no question.
I am here in my
Yes or no,
capacity-
should race be a factor in law school admissions
I
decisions?
am here in my
Because
capacity.
according to the ABA, it should. The ABA has said explicitly that they have a long history of supporting consideration of race in law school admissions. Is that your testimony, that law schools should continue taking into account race?
The Supreme Court indicated that diversity is a laudable goal, and the ABA supports diversity in all of its
This is
forms.
embarrassing for you. You ought to be able to answer this in a very straightforward way. And with that, the time is up.
Sir, I have three UCs request.
Go for it.
Thank you. I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a July 2026 article from Kerner News, North Texas families and the summer food programs they rely
Without
on
objection.
are feeling the sting of inflation.
Without objection. All right, and we're going to skip closing because we've got votes now. So in closing,
Well, that escalated quickly. You know, one thing I've learned after watching hundreds of congressional hearings is that sometimes the simplest questions end up revealing the most. That's exactly what happened here. The congressman wasn't asking about complicated constitutional law or obscure legal doctrine. He wasn't asking for lengthy legal analysis. Instead, he kept asking straightforward questions that most people watching at home probably expected would receive straightforward answers. And yet, answer after answer seemed to circle around the question instead of addressing it directly. The first exchange was about transgender representation on the United States Supreme Court. Now, let's be clear about something. The congressman wasn't asking whether someone should be excluded because they're transgender. He was asking whether representation itself should be a goal if diversity is truly being applied across every category. That's an important distinction. The witness repeatedly emphasized that the American Bar Association supports diversity in all its forms. But every time the congressman tried to narrow that principle into a specific example, the answer shifted back toward broad statements instead of a direct response. From where I'm sitting, that's why this exchange became so interesting. If an organization says diversity is one of its guiding principles, it's reasonable for lawmakers to ask how that principle is applied in practice. That's oversight. That's exactly what Congress is supposed to do. One moment that really stood out to me was when the congressman asked whether there had ever been a transgender Supreme Court justice. Now, regardless of anyone's political views, it was obvious what point he was trying to make. He was testing whether diversity means representation for every possible group, or whether there are limits to how that principle is applied. Instead of engaging directly with that question, the witness continued returning to prepared language about supporting diversity broadly. That may satisfy an organizational policy, but for viewers watching at home, it probably didn't answer the actual question being asked. Then the conversation shifted to something even bigger. Character versus identity. This was probably my favorite part of the hearing because it touched on an issue that's been debated in America for years. The congressman asked a simple question that echoes one of the most well-known ideals in American history. Should Americans be judged by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin? The witness answered yes. I think most Americans, regardless of political affiliation, would agree with that principle. But then came the follow-up. Should race play a role in law school admissions? Now things got interesting. Instead of giving a personal opinion, the witness repeatedly referred back to Supreme Court decisions and the ABA's commitment to following the law. From a legal standpoint, that's understandable. But politically, It left the impression that the question itself wasn't being answered. And that's where I think the congressman scored points. He wasn't asking what the Supreme Court had ruled. He already knew that. He was asking what the witness believed should happen. Those are two very different questions. One asks what the law currently is. The other asks what the right policy should be. When those two questions get blended together, viewers naturally start wondering why. Now, as a conservative, this issue has always been fairly straightforward to me. I believe people should earn opportunities based on merit, hard work, qualifications, and character. Not race, not ethnicity, not identity categories. The goal should be equal opportunity under the law. That doesn't mean pretending history never happened. It means believing that the best way forward is to judge individuals as individuals. That's one of the principles that has made America successful. The more we move toward treating people as representatives of groups instead of unique individuals, the more divided our country becomes. That's why debates over admissions policies, hiring practices, and diversity initiatives generate so much public attention. Most Americans don't oppose diversity itself. They oppose the idea that race or identity should outweigh merit. Another thing I noticed throughout this hearing was how persistent the congressman remained. He didn't let the conversation drift into general talking points. Every time the witness returned to broad language about diversity, he brought the discussion back to the specific question. Yes or no? Should race matter? Should representation be a goal? Should identity influence these decisions? Whether you agreed with his approach or not, he stayed remarkably consistent. That's something viewers tend to appreciate because congressional hearings often become long speeches instead of actual questioning. This one felt different. It felt like the congressman wanted clarity more than rhetoric. Now, some people watching this hearing will probably think the witness was simply being careful not to oversimplify complicated issues. Others will believe she intentionally avoided giving direct answers because the answers might create political controversy. Reasonable people can disagree about that. But what viewers saw was a repeated effort to get clear responses to questions that many people considered straightforward. And perception matters. One of the reasons congressional hearings go viral is because millions of Americans are judging not only what is said, but how it's said. Confidence matters. Clarity matters. Directness matters. If someone repeatedly avoids answering a simple question, even for understandable reasons, many viewers are going to assume there's something they don't want to say. Whether that's fair or not is up to each viewer to decide. Toward the end of the hearing, the congressman made a comment that I think summarized the entire exchange. He suggested it was embarrassing that such simple questions couldn't receive straightforward answers. That's obviously his opinion, but I understand why many viewers watching from home probably felt the same way. People expect experts appearing before Congress to explain their positions clearly. That's part of public accountability. At the same time, it's worth remembering that complex legal and policy questions don't always fit neatly into yes or no answers. Witnesses sometimes avoid oversimplifying because they believe important context would be lost. Viewers can reasonably disagree over whether that caution was appropriate in this particular exchange. For me, the broader takeaway is this. America continues to wrestle with difficult questions about merit, equality, diversity, and fairness. Those conversations aren't going away. Congressional hearings like this give the public an opportunity to hear those debates play out in real time. Sometimes they're productive, sometimes they're frustrating, but they reveal where institutions stand and how elected officials choose to challenge them. That's valuable in itself. Now I want to hear what you think. Did the congressman ask fair questions? Do you think the witness answered them clearly? Or do you think these issues are simply too complicated for yes or no responses? Let me know in the comments below. I read as many of them as I can, and I always appreciate respectful discussions for people with different viewpoints. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more reactions to congressional hearings, political debates, and the biggest stories coming out of Washington, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to The Political Brief, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next upload. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you. God bless America, and I'll see you in the next video.